recording from now, and so I apologize for, well, to anybody after this, that we'll make sure all the information from earlier gets to those people, but I apologize for that. Live and learn, right? So now we're just going to kind of go into some updates around, or some other additional updates around WCK SEC. Those of you that are in Hayes, you know that all the school district, or all of Hayes got a new website. WCK SEC has their own website as well. And I want to just be able to kind of show you guys that and kind of navigate it a little bit, just so you guys are aware of what's there and all of that. There we go. Just trying to present in two screens is interesting. So, can you see my screen? Can you see the website? Perfect. Okay. So if you go to usd49.com, there's two ways to get to the special ed page. One is through the menu, and there's just the special ed, and that'll take you to it. Or you can go to sites and special education cooperative. And of course, you can set a bookmark and set this. Once you're at the special ed page, if you go to the menu, this first landing page has like the live feed, which we don't put a ton of stuff in the live feed. I do have like the observation form for if people are coming to do that, or the confidentiality agreement. I do have that posted there just because we have students and stuff that sometimes need that. So I have that pinned at the top. We don't put a ton of stuff here. We don't really use the events all that much. The big part though is in the menu, all the different areas that we have. Of course, during phased learning, we have, and we'll go over this a little bit more in the breakout sessions, but in the phased learning side, we have, you know, where the special ed guidance is, the summaries for parents. I'll be putting all of the different districts' individual plans here, so it's all in one place. So if parents come looking for special ed, and because a lot of the time in the special ed part, it'll say, you know, reference your district plan. That way they don't have to go in multiple places. But from this site, then there's, you know, the staff resources that and parent resources that'll be added as we are collecting those. There's also a spot for certified staff, for para-educators, and again, some of this stuff is still being updated. We just got recent para work calendar, so these will be updated. But para resources, so if they're looking for in-service logs, for timesheet reminders, the para-educator guidelines, which is kind of the para manual, like officially the 489 classified staff manual applies to paras, but a lot of that doesn't really apply to paras, so we tried to make it a document that outlines more of what relates to special ed and the paras that we work with. But there's stuff in here about the council superintendents, developmental screening. If you've got somebody that's wanting to apply for a job, where you can direct them. But we try, if there's other things that would be useful here, please check it out. Please let us know what would be helpful, because we want this page to be something that you guys can use and make it truly useful. I've got a page for pillar resources where we're gonna, again, some of this is still in development. I don't know why. It's not like we don't have enough stuff to do. I guess I have more here than I thought I did, but they're so basically trying to put different resources related to the pillars. Just trying to make sure that you guys have everything that you need. And the biggest thing is the WebKids access. You can click here to get to WebKids. You can click here or here or here, pretty much anywhere to get to WebKids on in this site. But again, if you have questions about how to navigate, I just wanted to make sure. I know this was new, starting about middle of the year, and so I was just making sure that that you guys have seen it and know what all is here. Even the WebKids handbook, which there have been updates to that. But those updates will be added here as well. Okay. Oh, and here we go. And then as far as WebKids, we're really lucky this year because we didn't change much to WebKids. There's all the IEP forms, all the IEP pages are all the same except for the contingency plans, which we will talk about those in greater detail during the breakout sessions. There is some contingency plan guidance. So if your breakout session isn't until the late afternoon and you want to talk about, oh, gotcha. In the folder that was sent on the email, the contingency plans, there's some guidance in there. So if you want to get started or want to look at it before we you meet with your breakout session, you certainly can do that. The guidance in there is exactly the same as what we'll talk about this afternoon or this morning, depending on your group. The only real change to WebKids besides what we added for these plans is something called Rich Text Editor, and which means like on PLEPs, evaluation reports, several places throughout the IEP, you can now do things to the text. Like it's like you have a miniature Word built into the IEP. Most text, sorry, I shouldn't have clicked. You can change the font, you can add bullets, you can add numbers, but biggest thing, make sure that you keep it professional and keep it readable. You know, don't try and print in fancy colors, and because then it comes out black and white and now you can't see it. Don't use crazy fonts, you know, just like if you're writing any other type of document, but there's certain things you can do to bring emphasis to areas and to organize information. There's even a way to add tables without having to do special HTML stuff that sometimes breaks WebKids. And so that was one feature that I felt like a lot of people were going to be excited about, just because it'll allow us to be a little bit more effective with our communication in those. And then, like I said just a minute ago, the WebKids handbook, the updates that were done, mostly it was, again, because WebKids really didn't change, WebKids handbook updates are more typographical things, maybe some clarification things where it was clear that, or like the directions weren't as clear as I was hoping they would be, so I'd added some additional information. I will be sending those out. There is a change log, so you can decide, is the change that in that section worth me printing it out and replacing it? Because if it's not, again, there's no major changes, so I'll let you guys decide what you think. If you don't even want to look at that, you just want to print all of it out and replace it, that is just fine. But I'll be sending that out, organizing the information and sending it out soon. Surprised, I'd hoped to do that like last week Friday, and I don't know about anybody else, but my time goes a lot faster right now than I expected. So, but those are the WebKids updates. And then from KSDE, there are a few different updates. I have no idea why there's a giraffe here. I did the thing where it like create a design, you know, like you put in the text and then it suggests some different design. I saw the giraffe and I'm like, okay, I'll just keep it there because I'm not going to mess with that. But apparently they think PWN applies to giraffes. I'm not sure. Maybe if you have any zoologists that know the connection, let me know. The biggest things from KSDE with their updates, again, no major changes, no major guidance. They don't have a lot of time right now focused on, you know, too much crazy stuff. But one thing that they did emphasize during some of their trainings this last month, emphasizing the prior written notice and how we're writing them, and they're seeing some trends across the state of PWNs that are either not being given when they should be. Sometimes they're being written in ways that aren't clear. And then, so what we'll do throughout the next year, we're going to do some different things to kind of emphasize PWNs and kind of give guidance around PWNs to make them more clear and to fit more with the KSDE guidance. The PWN is probably the most complex form we have just because it's used for so many different things. And so it's just something that we all, like every time I attend a PWN training or read about them, I always learn something new about how they should be used or how you should word stuff. And so we'll continue to emphasize that. They wanted to emphasize the role of the LEA. A couple years ago, they did that. We've created some guidance. We'll continue to emphasize that with our principals. One thing I've thought about is trying to do some basic training around people who are going to be LEAs so they understand kind of what that role means, because that LEA is a very, like they're the decision maker in that meeting. They can cost, or they can allocate a lot of different resources that can cost a lot of money that may not be appropriate, or maybe there's other ways that we could do that. We just have to make sure people understand what that role actually entails. And then the last thing from KSDE is we do have periodic file reviews from KSDE. Every district does it every 3 years. This year it is La Crosse and Ellis. Those do have to be done by September 15th. And so if you're in La Crosse and Ellis, we'll be doing our review, and then we'll be in touch with you about any updates, any changes that need to be made related to that. but be looking for that. September 15th is when all the data has to be submitted to the state. Of course, the pushing school back and everything else has kind of caused that date to feel a whole lot closer than it normally is, because usually we start, July, but the time that it has, or the time that has gone towards other things has caused this to kind of be pushed back a little bit until we can get closer to. But if you're in La Crosse and Nellis, just be looking out for that information. With a file review, for those that aren't familiar, they pull anywhere between 10 and 16 IEPs from each district, and then we review them based off of that list that I've shared with you guys in the past. For the new staff, if you came to the WebKids training, that list that I gave you was generated from the list of what KSDE looks for in file review. So, okay. All right. The last thing that we'll talk about is the teacher to-do list. In the folder, let me see. Sorry. This is that Kickoff Inservice folder, that link that was at the bottom of the IEP. Again, the colored text is linked, so if you just click on, I think it's Kickoff Inservice folder, or Inservice documents. If you click that, it'll take you to this. It'll probably be in a browser for you. But these documents are here. That it's actually the WebKids teacher to-do list, but there's actually things on it outside of WebKids. There we go. A lot of this looks the same, but then there are some things that are going to be, we'll discuss them a little bit more during our breakout sessions, but you guys can start getting to work on that to-do list. The rest of today, if you're not in a session, I ask that you work on that homework, make it productive. There's a lot of different tasks I know you guys can be doing. So even if you guys want to jump into a Zoom with other people and kind of work together on it, I'm fine with that too. Just kind of coordinate that at your leisure. But if you have questions or concerns about not being able to get access to this stuff, please let me know and I'll make sure I can get some things adjusted. So, but in that, there's the para orientation planning for that. The para guides are in there. Sorry. The beginning of your para training checklist that was updated with a couple things around like frontline, making sure staff understand how to do that. We are getting some information to help train up the paras on how to use frontline, because we all know there's the web portal, but there's also the phone portal where you can just call in. So sometimes that's easier for some people to manage or to do, especially in the morning when you got a sick kid and you're trying to get things put in. Sometimes a phone call is easier, but we'll get that guidance for you. And then all the different documents we'll talk about today, the COVID leave, contingency plans, all of that is in here. Again, feel free to check it out. And then Karen also had a list of updates, just kind of basic things that errors we see frequently on IEPs. Just kind of review that, make sure that you're familiar with it. And then the student list that she'll be sending you. So, and then the rest of today is just the breakout sessions like we talked about at the beginning. Use that other time for your homework. Are there any other questions or concerns at this point?
Kyle, I was just going to make a comment. For the breakout sessions, I know everybody is super busy and has a lot to do. So we're just asking that you for sure come to one. But then if you want to not show your video and just have the audio of like another group that you might be a part of, like for example, like an SLP that works with early childhood, feel free to do that. Like the content's the same, but the conversation that staff ask and things might be different, and you may want to, hear some of that, and that's totally okay. We just ask that you be present with your camera on and attentive to one breakout session, and then you can, be in on others, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And one last thing I want to share before we all go, because again, want to be able to always talk about the positive things, the things that we can celebrate. We have amazing special education staff members everywhere. But I want to recognize one person in particular right now, because we have a finalist for the Kansas Special Educator of the Year. This has been a pretty amazing year. The last year we've had a final from special education. We've had a finalist for the Horizon Award, which is the second year teacher award. We've had School Psychologist of the Year. We've had Edna L. Harrison Award winner in a school psychologist. And I feel like there are several other awards that have been given. But to have a finalist for that Special Educator of the Year, it's given out by the Kansas Association of Special Ed Administrators. Our finalist is Jerry Brown. And so, Jerry, you know, when I was asking you all those questions about your background and all that stuff, that was just a way to get information for that referral, or that application. So, Jerry does amazing things. He's very active at the state level, at the local level. I mean, if you can talk to almost anybody who's worked with Jerry, and you know that he's going to give the absolute 100% every single time, and he's always going to look at what's best for kids, and that's why he's one of those finalists. I believe there's 3 finalists. I'm still waiting on exactly how they're going to give the awards. It was supposed. There's been some confusion, of course, as everything's changed over the last. Usually, it's given at leadership conference. Leadership went virtual, and so it threw a bunch of wrenches. There's going to be some type of announcement. As soon as I know where that will be, I'll try and make it where Jerry can be there for that announcement. And if for some reason it's already happened, because you know that's how some stuff is, then I'll let you know about it. But I definitely wanted to make sure that Jerry got recognized for that outstanding achievement. And you know, our biggest, you know, we don't do this work for the awards. We don't do it for recognition, but there is value in being seen for the work that you're doing. And so I want to make sure that, you know, every single person, I don't, it's not about the awards. It's about making sure that you guys feel supported and recognized. And so that'll be something that we also do. That's something that the last 2 years I've really tried to emphasize, is when there are opportunities to get our staff recognized, to try and do it, because you guys are already doing the work. I want to make sure that you guys feel supported and valued for that work. So congratulations, Jerry. It's 9 o'clock. The next session is at 9:15. If you're in one of those first groups, or any of the breakout sessions, go back to that original email, the blue text of your title, so elementary resource, early childhood. If you click that, it'll take you straight to the Zoom room for that group. Each room is different, so if you're in one room and you're going to jump into another one, make sure you go back and select that link. And then the last 2 are actually going to both be in the same link. But for everybody, we'll see you back at 2:30. For each individual group, we'll see you when we see you. So thank you all.
Thanks, guys. And if the resource folder that Kyle's talking about, I typed it in the chat, but it is also in that email that has the Zoom links for today's meeting. See you all in a little bit. Take a nice break. Have your coffee and donuts.